It has been said for centuries that the eldest daughter is the GOAT. She's the greatest of all time. She's the superwoman. She's the superman. She's the one that everyone doesn't really want to be, but they're also the person that they admire the most. She's the glue, so they say. No reneging, no talking across the table, no ego, only soul evolution. This is Speaking of Spade. I'm Spade. Let's go.
Now listen, daughter. Pay attention, pray and listen. Hear your father. These lies they told are so familiar. They will haunt you, they will kill you. Keep you hostage, king will heal you. Before him, adore him.
I wanted to talk about this because I did make a post about this on TikTok, and I was like, we always talk about like mother and daughters, but I don't think we ever talk about eldest daughter to eldest daughter. And I've seen a lot of content recently about eldest daughters, and I'm an eldest daughter myself. I am my mom and my dad's first child, and I'm also the child of eldest siblings. With me being the oldest, and my stepdad is also the oldest child. So what's crazy about this is being the eldest daughter. I feel like it's emotional because of the fact of like, there are all these expectations because you're carrying a lot of responsibility that you don't understand why. Whether if you're an eldest daughter to an only child, a middle child, a younger child, whoever the position sibling that your parent plays in this, at the end of the day, when it comes to you being the eldest daughter, there is a certain responsibility and expectation that will never be able to be explained. Like nobody could ever tell me why these responsibilities are just so important. Because you can't say, oh, so you could be a role model. That's what you're for. You're the parent. And what I realized is there's a foot on eldest daughters' necks that we never seem to get ourselves from under until we remove it ourselves. People could pour into you all day. People could tell you, oh, you know what I'm saying? We're so proud of you. But y'all don't know what it actually took for me to get to this point. An eldest daughter is a parent's biggest projection. You just existing gives them ample amount of opportunity to project on you. You got to remember, you're their first child. You're their first child as a woman. So not only are you their first child as a woman, you now have to put into perspective what they think about women, how they see women in their day to day, how they see the women in their lives if it's your mother. You have a lot of pressure on your back as the eldest daughter that I don't think a lot of people really express. I'm not just carrying the trauma of my bloodlines from the women in my family. I'm also carrying the trauma of my dad's side because of how he's been programmed to treat women and do women. And I have the responsibility to make sure that I carry everybody's name. A lot of people think as a woman, you carry your mother's energy, but you carry more of your father than you carry your mother any day. Because the confidence that your father gives you goes directly into how you stand up as a woman. When we think of all the masculine chakras within us, yes, I'm going to talk about chakras real fast. We talk about like the throat chakra, the root chakra, the solar plexus, and the third eye, and the crown, and the sacral are all feminine. But the only one that has a duality or like a dual energy of it is the heart. So when you think about it like that, your dad's energy is so deeply rooted into that because that's basically how you speak, how you give and receive, or how you give love to people, how you give love to yourself. How confident are you in yourself? A lot of people, they take a lot of that for granted because it's just kind of put upon us to just be your mother's daughter. You're your mother's daughter. You're your mother's daughter. You're your mother's daughter. When you don't realize that there is a lot of energy from your father that eldest daughters hold within them. As an eldest daughter, one of the things, to all eldest sibling parents, one of the things I realized is that their tough love wasn't what I needed. It wasn't what I needed. As much as I love to sit here and say, you know, people grow up and they say things like, oh, you know, I'm glad I got that tough love. I didn't need it. I didn't need it. I was a child that, by the grace of God, had the gift of knowing who I was and was willing to experiment it. And I feel like I was surrounded by people that didn't know who they were. They all had question marks on their forehead. So imagine an adult has a child that has an exclamation point on her forehead, but you have a question mark. Now, I'm not here to speak for all eldest daughters, but if you understand what I'm saying, then you already know what that feels like. For you to just be in this bubble, and it's a bubble of your own self-expression, but the bubble is constantly being popped by everyone around it because you hold the responsibility of a representation of their parenting. That's something that a lot of people, I feel like, they do not discuss when it comes to eldest daughters. They don't talk about the fact of that your parents see you as a representation of their parenting. So if you fail at something, they feel like it reflects their parenting. And it's not necessarily their parenting for them personally. It's more of how they're being perceived. And that, to me, always really threw me off. How can you parent through the perception of other adults? How? Like, I asked myself that so many times. Like, now that I'm older and like I actually am old enough to have kids, because look, I wasn't down for the teen pregnancy. Okay. Kids was just too serious for me. It was too serious. So now I'm like, okay, I'm thinking about it. Like, okay, maybe. And I still feel too young. But now that I actually feel like I'm at the age where I would have kids, it really does take a toll on you to realize, wow, you didn't parent me based off of how you truly wanted me to grow within myself. You didn't parent me based off of how you wanted me to love myself. You parent me based off the perception of other adults. You wanted me to validate you as a human. You wanted me to validate your authority. That's real wicked. Eldest daughters suffer from that. They suffer from that tremendously. Someone decided that the perception of who they were as a human, as an adult, was through your actions as a child. And that, to me, is it's disturbing, because I see where it has caused me to be very strict on myself. It's caused me to be very kind of self-sacrificial, because it's like, okay, well, I'm setting this example for my siblings. I'm setting this example for other people's kids. And I'm trying to figure out, why the fuck am I even setting this example? It doesn't truly relate to who I am. I 100% feel like if I was able to express myself the way I truly was to be able to express myself without people worrying about the perception, or people allowing emotional turmoil to bother them through the connections of my parents and all that around me, I feel like I would have been a totally different woman. Now, I don't wish I could go back and change different things, because all that made me who I am today, which is very rebellious. I'm going against the norm, and I'm standing 2 feet down, and I don't give a fuck. And I pray that every eldest daughter join me on that journey, because who gonna check me? I feel like sometimes an eldest daughter adult eldest daughter is their parents' worst nightmare or biggest dream. Why do I say that? Because once you get to the age of where you're capable to handle things on your own, you now start to see them as true what they are, adults. You don't see them as your parents. You see them as adults. You see them as people. And once I see you for the person that you truly is, and not who my childhood decided to disguise you as, or how society told me I had to respect you as a parent, I see what the fuck was going on. You had no business having no fucking kids. You had no fucking business. And then I also got the wisdom of like why women have girls and why they have boys. And If women have daughters to gain self-love, where the fuck was the love and the nurturing? If men have daughters for them to show them self-confidence, where was the confidence in the fucking men? Hello? As an eldest daughter, I don't do labels no more. Labels don't entitle you to respect. Labels don't entitle you to my space, my peace, my energy. Labels don't mean shit to me. I'm seeing, and it's crazy because you really don't get that until you really rest. Eldest daughters don't get a chance to rest. They are underneath a foot that they can't explain why the foot is on their necks. And I'm not angry. And that's one thing I want every eldest daughter to do. I want you to release all anger. Because once you stop seeing the label, you can now detach the pain from it being personal. You see what I'm saying? Sometimes one thing that I feel a lot of eldest daughters suffer from is always trying to chase that why. Why were they so hard on me? Why weren't they able to be so loving? Why weren't they understanding? Why couldn't they show up for me? Why couldn't they support me? Why couldn't they push me in a different way? Why? And I'm here to tell you, stop chasing the why. Because when you stop chasing the why, you'll realize they don't even know. They don't even know. I will never forget the conversation that I had with my mother. And she wasn't like, it's not that she said something like completely off the wall, but she said something that made me realize that you were quite aware that we had two different. She said, I had to parent you guys differently, you two differently, because you guys, something about we were different. Like she had to use two different parenting styles for like both of us because we were different. In what world are children the same? I think I held a lot of resentment growing up because I felt like I got the heat for, somebody else's actions. So when they say things like, your sister's going to do what you do, or you should be set the example. You can only set the example based off of what's the word I'm trying to say? You can only set an example based off the standard that's being presented. And if the same standard is not being presented equally to both children, therefore that I'm not an example of something that they're being held to. I hope that makes sense. You're trying to hold me to a standard that is not across the board. And see, that's the part of being an eldest daughter that emotional turmoil goes into how you feel about people in the world. You start to have secret animosity and resentment towards people because, they got this in life and they had a dad in their life and they had their relationship with their mom and they get this and they get that. I killed that very young. I killed that at probably like the age of 8. I'd say about maybe 19. And then like I kind of tried to dip back into it of like having that relationship with my parents as an adult. And it's like the older I got, the more wise I was, the more I was in tune, and more I started to realize I cut motherfuckers off on the street for doing shit like this. Ain't no way in hell you think you finna be doing all this. Who the fuck are you? And it sounds crazy because, the Bible does say respect your mother and your father. But the Bible also says that mothers and fathers shouldn't provoke their children. And I realized at some point, my growth, my success, my ambition, my outward expression was starting to becoming a way for them to provoke me. I'll never forget one time my dad told me, I can't remember what I had did. And he was like, I let you say all that stuff on TikTok. You don't let me do a motherfucking thing. I'm grown. Is you okay? And see, they don't realize that when they say those things, that they're speaking to an adult. They don't realize when they say these things, we're no longer 28 years back. We no longer in 1996, boo. I'm a grown ass adult. I see you for the human being that you are. There's a couple points about eldest daughters that I did a little bit of research, of course, and then, my own channeling, but I wanted to talk to you guys about it. So a theme when it comes to being an eldest daughter, is the weight, right? And when we think about the weight, we think about the weight in multiple things. Emotional. We think about it in performative. We think about it in the cultural, family. All of that goes into it. And one of the things that I realized about this weight is that the weight is tied to the emotion. And it also goes into what I be saying about people like, your weight is tied to how you feel. So it's funny how like you might have been in a stressful situation, you gain weight because your body is retaining kind of like energy or fat in order to keep you safe and feel comfort. And so when you get out of that stressful situation, it's like all of a sudden the weight just falls off. And as you continue to heal, and as you continue to, reassure yourself, work on your confidence, work on who you are as an individual, weight continues to fall off. That's the same thing that kind of happens in your emotional, bank. I'm gonna just call it your emotional bank. And one of the things that kind of hit when I was doing it was that we suffer from multiple traps. Okay. The linking worth to productivity, because, it was always odd that I could never chill. And when I did chill, it was like we needed to be doing something, or in order for, to not catch mom's wave of anger or whatever, you had to make sure things look like this. And whole time it's like, why are you putting the responsibility of your household onto me? And I realize that's a generational thing. They put the responsibilities of the household onto children, which takes away from them being children. So then the oldest sibling now takes this higher role as like the house supervisor of making sure the house is maintained. Now, I'm not saying children shouldn't have chores, but some things it's like, what do you want me to do? See, because once I've been made the parent, right? As the eldest sibling, once you clearly made me, head of the household, as you continue to go do things like provide for the household, live your life, whatever, we got two different parenting styles. We don't parent the same. How hard you were on me has changed my parenting style of how I communicate with my siblings. How you treated me with certain things and how you pushed me and how you disciplined me and took out anger on me, projected shit onto me. I'm different with my siblings. I'm different with my kids. We got two different parenting styles. And I realized eldest daughters are held to a standard that it literally doesn't make sense. I can name numerous of times where my mom was going through a lot of emotional things and she just was very emotionally unstable. But it was our fault. Like certain things we would do would be like the camel that broke the straw, or the straw that broke the camel's back. And because we're your children, you see what I'm saying? We catch the backlash because you can't cuss your boss out. You can't cuss your coworkers out. You can't go punch that man in his face for what he did. So you take it out on your children. And one of the things that I realized is that that is directly linked with how we see our worth. If we do all this, maybe mom will be proud of me. If we do all this, maybe dad will congratulate me. As an eldest sibling, if I do this, if my sibling is doing something right, they will see me as a star to give me the recognition so I don't have to catch a raft. Okay. Another point I want to go ahead and put on the board, another book on the board, right? A fear of failure and disappointing others. That is a direct link with your worth. It was hard for an eldest sibling to make mistakes, as an eldest sibling to make mistakes. And because I was the child of eldest siblings, seeing how they were made me realize why it was so hard to make mistakes. Yeah. My mom got pregnant and was totally cut off from her dad, but my grandma, still like stepped in to help her, but he kind of made it hard for my grandma to help her. a mistake. You see that feeling of failure from that? Now, my grandpa loved us. He loved me. I was spoiled rotten. You see what I'm saying? Same thing with my dad. It was just kind of like his dad. It was hard for them to make a mistake. So I realized that they projected a lot of that onto me. If I couldn't make a mistake, neither could you. You see what I'm saying? And it just became a generational curse of the weight. What is this mistake going to do? How am I going to get in trouble for this? Sometimes I just wish I could be a fly on the wall to tell my mom in so many different situations that they felt was so much better for me, that I needed more of your support than I needed your structure. I think if parents took their hands off of their eldest siblings, like took their hand off their neck, they would realize that that child has been learning based off observation. So if you actually allow them to learn and show you what they've actually like obtained, you would be more proud instead of trying to critique them. As the eldest sibling in the adult world, someone critiquing me does not bother me at all. It makes me very open to the conversation, constructive criticism. But it also makes me very privy to how people manipulate that constructive criticism. And it's actually their own projection. They're deflecting from something. I realized that everything that my parents did that is truly fucking negative, it's helped me in a positive aspect, because it now opens me up to see this isn't genuine advice. This isn't genuine. This is literally someone deflecting. This is someone that is having a hard time wrapping their mind around how they feel about me, how they feel about the situation. That's something I will tell you guys that I don't know if you can agree. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but that is something that parents don't realize that they did for us. It made us very aware to be able to see energy changes in people quickly. I remember my stepdad's car broke down, and I remember saying like, I'm so sorry. And he was like, you don't have to be sorry. But because I'm so used to the energy shifting, I want to make sure that I didn't make a mistake. Now, mind you, I didn't do shit to this damn car. I didn't do shit to the car. But because I knew that certain backlash of a situation could come to me as the eldest sibling, Erica, why you didn't tell her, why she don't have this cleaned up? Or Erica, why she didn't? Erica, what? Like, that's a whole nother fucking human being. But you're the oldest. That was probably one of the worst things I ever fucking heard in my life was, but I'm the oldest. What the fuck does that got to do with me? You set the example. You're the fucking parent. Did we forget? That ain't my fucking kid. And I think because I had a strong sense of individuality, I hate being put into twos. She's her own person. And y'all can see that clear as day. We are day and night. So stop this bullshit. That shit really takes a toll on eldest siblings, on eldest daughters. It takes a toll because as women, we are taught to be nurturing, to be loving, to be open, to be receptive. Do you not know how closed off that makes a woman when she feels like there's an obligation of responsibility on someone? That's honestly how we get caught up dealing with people that are constant projects. That's how we get caught up with people that we feel like we have to fix and we have to mother. It don't come from a natural feeling of wanting to be nurturing. It comes from an obligation that was put upon us. An obligation that don't even make sense because I don't got no fucking kids. That's not my kid. That's your kid. And sometimes I want to sit and tell every parent that lives in this generational curse of how they traumatize eldest daughters and tell them that's not her fucking kid. You don't have to look out for nobody. Only time y'all got to look out for each other as siblings is when y'all out in this world. Other than that, in this household, that's your fucking kid. And honestly, you only got to have your siblings back against other kids and other people that's outside y'all family or outside of them. But there should be no reason why you're making the eldest daughter responsible for her siblings. You should never be making the eldest daughter responsible for where you might not have been shown up for as a child yourself. That's not their responsibility. I feel like a generational curse that I see with a lot of black families is that we feel like tough love builds character, when honestly it builds rebellion. If nobody ever asks you truly like, what's wrong? Why do you act that way? And then when you say why you act that way, they become in this, they now with their gaslighting. Well, I don't do that. I fed you and I clothed you. That what the fuck you're supposed to do. The manipulation tactic of I gave you something that they were responsible for giving you, as if that's something you're supposed to be grateful for, is crazy. I would never forget my dad saying shit like that to me. You should be grateful. I don't got to be grateful for a motherfucking thing that you're supposed to do as a parent and that you should want to do as a man. Are you okay? And see, I realize that that's why the eldest daughter holds a lot of her father's energy within her. That's why eldest daughters can look at men and be like, you a grown ass man. Fuck wrong with you? When the eldest daughter gains that confidence, she will read every man in her life for filth. She will continuously be annoyed by their energy, by their actions, their vernacular. They just, it will annoy the shit out of her. Because that tough love, those expectations, those responsibilities that was put on her that wasn't supposed to be, has made her realize she's the realest nigga in her life. What, when nobody gonna come save her, she the realest nigga in her life. That's one thing I want every eldest daughter that doesn't really get the support and the love that she thinks she deserves. Always know you the realest nigga in your life. Once I got that concept, it made me get over wanting to be saved. I kind of went through that phase a little bit and it never sit well with me. And I always end up attracting the savior of fucking Satan, because it wasn't in me. I'm not meant to be saved. I'm not meant to be coddled. I'm built different because I was born first. I'm built different because I was born first. I move different because I was born first. I handle things differently because I was born first. I'm the experiment that became the master plan of the universe. Nobody was expecting it to be me. Nobody was expecting for me to be the one to not talk to anyone. No one was expecting for me to have the backbone. I was supposed to be the glue, right? I was supposed to keep everybody together. I was supposed to make sure that everybody stayed in this energy of not remembering what the fuck really happened. That's what y'all put on eldest daughters. Y'all put that pressure on them to be the glue, when in reality, all you guys are doing are just trying to invalidate the pain that you put her through. Years down the line, when your parents be like, oh my God, I'm just so glad you're so successful. Oh my God, I'm just so glad that you did all this. Yeah, because a part of me realized that if I didn't become successful, I was always going to have an enemy, and it was going to be you as my mom. If I didn't become resourceful, I was always going to have an enemy, and it was going to be you as my dad. So it was either toughen up, buttercup, and make this life shake on my terms, or continue to live in a projection of your inability to be a decent human being. It's crazy. It's crazy when you think about it, because it's like, this is probably going to be a very tough podcast to actually stomach, because it's going to sound like a lot of rage or anger, but it's the truth. It's the truth. Being the eldest daughter is a beautiful thing, But in that beauty is so much darkness. It's so much darkness. And even when you are in a family that, you know, the dad loved the mom, everybody's good, there's still just this little thing that an eldest daughter goes through that I feel like no one can relate unless they are an eldest sibling. But it's something specifically that no one can relate to unless they are an eldest daughter. I just feel like it's hard to express, because I feel like when you express it, so many people focus on where you are now and what you have become, that they don't realize that this was based off my own doings. This was based off my own decision making. You know, it wasn't a need for me to compare what I saw with the women in my family to who I became now. I didn't need to have a comparison. What I needed was to create something that I would be proud of, something that I could vouch for, something that nobody could gaslight me out of. And if you haven't reached this point, I want you to understand that it is obtainable. But you got to get over people pleasing. You got to get over trying to make everybody feel comfortable. You got to get over looking like the odd one out the bunch. You got to get over it. You were born first. If it's all about leading by an example, then lead with authenticity. Who gonna check you, boo? Another point I wanted to add. When it comes to the eldest daughter, it's also a cultural thing, right? And the cultural part of it goes into gender. It goes into the family dynamic, kind of like the sacrifice. You know, it goes into a lot of it. And one of the things that I've noticed when it comes from a cultural way is that you aren't really asked questions. You're more told demands. As the eldest daughter, I realized that questions irritate me and indirectness pisses me off. And demands literally make me sick. Okay? Questions annoy me because I realize that people weren't necessarily asking me questions about my well-being out of their true genuine curiosity. They were asking me questions in order for them to figure out or to piece together what I'm doing, how I'm doing it. Yeah, indirectness became people's mask of their manipulation to keep me around. Demands were placed as projections of people that weren't comfortable in their own power and were intimidated by mine. They were intimidated by the power I had in my left thumb because they didn't have enough to cover their whole body. That's crazy to me. That's crazy to me. And so culturally, when this comes up, whether it's African, Indian, culturally, it falls in those three categories: questions, indirectness, and demands. When you speak of eldest daughter culturally, issues fall between those three categories. In Black families, the questions are bait, like they're baiting you to kind of get angry. You know, it's like they're asking wild questions that clearly, I mean, what the fuck? How do I answer that? That you know you don't want the truth. The indirectness is a tactic of manipulation to kind of press, you know, that emotional manipulation of like, I know I'm wrong, but I can't admit that I'm wrong. So I'm just going to kind of gauge that. And then the demands come from a power struggle. So always remember that when it comes culturally. We talked about the resentment. We talked about the guilt. One thing that I also noticed about eldest daughters, and I hope you don't suffer from this, is that you create distance out of safety. I used to do that. I am a huge, person for not liking dogs. And everybody in my family was, they didn't mind an animal, or they have an animal. And I didn't understand why nobody could respect fully that I didn't like a fucking dog. Like, I couldn't understand why you would put a dog's feeling above me when I'm in a child's place. I'm not choosing to be here. I'm being made to be here. And you're okay with making me uncomfortable. And that to me just never sit well with me. It never sit well with me when my mom used to be like, don't move. Like, I don't want the fucking dog near me. And you're basically telling me to just deal with it. So I used to isolate out of safety. I've sat in cars for hours because I did not want to go out there with somebody, go in the house because they got a dog. I used to isolate, not stay in my room, go somewhere else. Well, I don't care. If I don't want to be around it, I don't want to be around it. And that's something I feel like eldest daughters are always pushed to do. They're always pushed to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations out of their own preference. And that to me reflects in our adult life really bad, because we'll be in an uncomfortable situation and we won't know how to truly voice it because we feel like people will, I guess, be upset with us because we're uncomfortable. And then I realize I'm an adult. I don't got to be nowhere that I don't want to be, or nowhere that I'm uncomfortable. So if you have a dog, you will never see me at your house. I will never forget my ex, his grandmother, she had a dog, right? And everybody knew I did not fuck with dogs. And she had her dog, it was walking or whatever, and the dog jumped on the couch and I threw my fucking food all in the air because why the fuck would y'all let this dog get on this damn couch? And she was so mad about the food. And I was apologetic because I'm like, I'm so sorry. But bitch, I don't like no fucking dog. And so I remember it was so awkward. I did not give a fuck. And when I tell you, I never went back to that lady house. And she used to always be like, oh, you can, girl, I do not fuck with you or fuck with that damn dog. And the fact that you put a dog over a human's emotions already showed me that I wasn't important enough to you anyway. So you don't have to worry about me. And she used to always feel bad because I guess her husband had told her, like, you put a dog over a human. And see, that to me just opened my eyes how people really saw things when it came to me. You put someone else's comfort of their home over your child's comfort, which shows me that women do this shit all the time. Parents do this shit all the time. A kid don't want to be at their uncle's house or they goddad's house or they cousin's house because some weird shit going on, and y'all make them stay there even though they are uncomfortable. That shit weird to me. That shit is weird. That's something that I never want a child to experience. I never want a child to experience being uncomfortable, and I'm the one making the choice for them to stay in discomfort. I'm going to get them out of that. And I realize that that's some shit that parents be trying to pull that I don't agree with. That damn child don't got no fucking choice. So why would you make them do that? That's something I never understood. Because of, once again, how I act is not based off of your teachings. How you act towards me, how you parent me is based off the perception of other adults. You want other adults to see you as authoritative. You want other adults to see you as the best parent, or to see you that you can control your kids, when you do nothing but push your children further away from you. As the eldest daughter, I will say I could put more hands on being how many things have pushed me away from being in contact with my parents and being around my parents than I could tell you the things that brought us together. Did I have a hard knock life childhood? No, but certain things are principle and they're law. And as the eldest daughter that's held to a certain standard, principle and law is all you guys taught me. Right? Principle and law was the face value was all I was shown as. The structure, that's all I was shown as. So the same strict program that was applied to me as a child, I have that same strict program towards you as my parent. I'm a no nonsense type of kid. I don't know when the last time I told my mama happy Mother's Day or happy birthday, or my father. If you can't respect me as a person and take accountability and do different, then we don't really got nothing to talk about. For real, for real. If you can't show up for me in some way, we don't got nothing to talk about. For real. And I feel like eldest daughters have a fear of that. They have a fear of not having that open communication, because at the end of the day, we're women. We have emotions. We're the emotional being. We're the spiritual being. But one thing I've learned that is, as an eldest daughter, is that my spirit runs circles around motherfuckers. My spirit is strong. I was born first. Like, I don't know how many more times to tell that. Like, as the eldest daughter, you were born first. You have one of the toughest spirits when it comes to anybody, because you are the blueprint. You're a generational holder. You see what I'm saying? You're the first generational holder of something. And not to say your siblings can't do certain things and be the first generation to have it. But when it comes to how it really lines up, you are the first generation of something. When it comes to all the women in my family that had children either out of wedlock or with someone that, you know, they don't really want to be with, or someone they didn't truly want to be with, I'm the first one that shit ain't happening. It ain't happening. It's not happening. So when I tell you, as an eldest daughter, you got the spirit of a warrior, I mean it. And you got to learn to utilize it for you instead of everyone else. You have to use that warrior spirit to get you out of that depression, to get you out of that emotional turmoil. Don't nobody owe you shit. If you thought this was going to be an episode where I tell you that people owe you and people got to do this for you because of all the shit you went through, then you need to turn me the fuck off right fucking now. I'm telling you now, and block me. Because don't nobody owe you shit. So if don't nobody owe you shit, that means that you don't owe nobody either. You don't owe people your loyalty. You don't owe people your compassion. You don't owe people your empathy, your understanding, your patience. You don't owe nobody none of that shit. So don't fall victim to it. It's hard enough having the spirit of your mother and your father so deeply in you that you carry everything. So to be one to carry everything and also think that you're going to be out in this world moping and groaning and being miserable because people owe you because you didn't get the life that you felt that you deserve. Well, I'm here to tell you, Cinderella, you got to build your own dress and God will have that chariot outside. I promise you. He will be your fairy godmother, fairy godfather. He will be your mouse helping you. He will be your birds, your animals. He will be everything that you need him to be. And if you don't believe in God, whoever your higher power is, that's fine. But if you want me to tell you straight up who's going to be your biggest fan, your biggest supporter, is God. You don't got the same luxury as your other siblings, baby. And God made it that way. God made it that way. So you could show your strength of how far you take yourself. You think you got all this strength. You think you endured all that pain and projection and problems and energy. You think you did that to build someone else up? No, he did that because he says, I know you can go far. I know you can create something in depth. See, I am a child of all eldest siblings that went against their word in some shape or form. They went against something that they believed in some shape or form. They didn't listen to themselves. They didn't honor themselves. They didn't trust themselves in some shape or form. And I'm here to say I trust myself more than ever. I push myself more than ever because I don't have anyone to compare to. I don't have anyone to validate me. I don't have anyone that is sitting here critiquing me about certain things, because you know why? I trust in God. I lean on God. Everything that I know for a fact of that I would be critiqued about from my parents as a kid, or just in general from a parent to a child, God applauds me. God applauds me. You know, I can tell y'all this because we just cool like that. Do you not know a part of the reason why I was so hesitant about coming on the internet and really speaking my truth and telling my stories and telling certain things was because I cared about how my parents were going to be viewed. I've never told anyone that. I was scared about how people were going to perceive my parents of me being the woman that I am now. Mind y'all, I'm not on the internet shaking ass. I'm not no stripper. I'm not none of that. But I know how valuable words are. And I know that when you speak on certain things, from me per se, when you speak on certain things and you have the gift of wisdom, such as myself, I knew a lot of my teachings were going to fall on my parents. I knew that they were going to be the people I was actually talking about. I knew that they were going to be an example of what I was explaining. I knew that they were going to be the root of why I am the way I am. Like, in a way, I knew that I was going to have to discuss the boundaries that I put up with them and how I don't talk to them anymore. Like, I knew they were going to be seen in some way. Whether you guys know who my parents are or not, I'm saying that's what used to hold me back. I used to be so self-conscious about like talking about certain things because I knew it was accessible to my parents. And then one day I realized I don't care. I don't care. I wasn't given the gift of wisdom to speak my truth, to be critiqued and criticized to the people that literally created the trauma. And that's when I realized that I had God's support more than ever, because I was getting that confidence back. I was getting that confidence back to say what I needed to say without worrying about being punished. I was doing more things without thinking about how am I going to do it or if I'm going to be punished. I was starting to heal the things that we talked about, the resentment, the guilt. I was starting to heal. Remember, I told you about the questions, the indirectness, the demands. I was starting to heal all those things. The perfection. I was starting to heal those things the more I leaned into him as an eldest daughter. Eldest daughter's biggest supporter is their higher power. You know who's going to carry you? You know who's going to really amp you up? You know who's going to show you love? God and your higher power. You do know that, right? So when it comes to all the things that we're discussing of how it goes into how we become adults, you realize that the support that you truly needed, you would have never got it from people that don't know how to support themselves. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. If they don't know how to support themselves, how can they support you? If they don't know who they are, how can they know who you are? I'm going to talk about a couple more things and then I want to wrap this up because we got another game next week. You know what I'm saying? One of the things that really stuck with me that I had wrote down is that there's a spiritual assignment of an eldest daughter, okay? And it goes back into that whole foot on the neck and can't explain why, because the spiritual assignment of an eldest daughter is not really seen or can really truly be named. It's felt. And it's felt through her trials and tribulations of reconstructing her emotional foundation. The spiritual assignment is a direct reflection of her emotional foundation. Okay. Because you are a woman, that means you're very spiritual. Because of the things you went through, it probably pushed you more in a masculine energy, right? And you were put more into the position of building instead of creating. And if you were pushed more into building instead of creating, you've now stepped further and further from your purpose. And this is why I say women have to be a foot deep in their purpose so they can't be maneuvered. You can't be pushed. Nobody can distract you. Okay, regardless if you start to move forward with getting married, a friend or a business or a child, if you're already a foot deep in your purpose, you can't be maneuvered from that spiritual assignment. You can't be pushed further into being masculine because you now have a clear understanding of how to create. Does that make sense? Because one of the things that I want to talk about is the fact of that an eldest daughter is the one that, I guess you could say, an eldest daughter stands in the gap, right? And it's so funny because I looked this up and this is the sentence that it said, chosen before you choose. Okay? Many eldest daughters feel appointed. One of the things that you explore under this energy of feeling chosen is that you're the first to break the ground. You're carrying generational hopes, prayers, and unfinished business. You build the bridge between past and future. You are basically positioned in a way. That's why I said earlier, I was born first. Another thing about it is that eldest daughters absorb a lot of energy, in order to keep things copacetic. Eldest daughters I'm getting back to that weight thing again. A lot of weight is also put on the eldest daughter because how much chaos she can create. An eldest daughter can create war in families, which she normally does once she starts choosing herself, but eldest daughter, she's very powerful. And when you are very powerful, you have to understand there are so many forces basically fighting against you. And so many people are being used as a host of the devil to fight against that power, because the devil knows if you get in your power, it's going to be murder. It's going to be a very deadly thing. Okay. So one of the, another thing that comes up was about being, of course, the spiritual anchor. Now, I don't really care for the whole spiritual anchor as an eldest daughter because it kind of makes you put your shadow on the back burner, and your shadow is what keeps people from the fuck from around you. Your shadow keeps you very aware and privy in your spirit and head on swivel, where when demons start to enter the room and enter the chat, and they start to come in as, a wolf in sheep clothing. I was explaining to women that there's a point in time in your journey, regardless of whatever sibling you are, there's a point in time in your journey where God will isolate you so you can now be aware. He doesn't isolate you just always for healing and always for, in a bad way. Sometimes God isolates you so you can know how your energy is at a normal level. So anytime it fluctuates, you can peep, oh, it's some devilish shit going on around me. I need to go ahead and get it up off me. Get it up off me. So many eldest daughters are suffering from emotional turmoil and I don't even want to say depression, but I guess you could call it depression, but it's functional depression. A lot of eldest daughters suffer from that functional depression. Still getting up to do things that are considered the responsibility without holding yourself accountable for you being your number one responsibility. That's something I also wanted to say. Another point that really came down about releasing the false expectations, and I kind of spoke on this, but I want to just add some steps. God doesn't want you to be depleted. He doesn't want you to be exhausted He doesn't want you to exhaust all your options. He doesn't want you to exhaust all your emotions. He doesn't want you to exhaust all your connection. He doesn't want you to be exhausted, depleted, drained. That is something I'm telling you guys as an eldest daughter, that is put on you every single day. God don't want that. And every time I catch myself wanting to do something I know I don't want to do, out of feeling like I'm obligated to do it because of the expectation that's put upon me or the responsibility that's put upon me, I realize if I just turn to the right and I tell God, I don't want to do this, every single time he'll be like, then don't do it. So many times we fight against what we know we are supposed to do because there was a point in time where we did everything that was told to us. And then you get tired of that and you want to rebel and be like, I don't want to do that. So then you don't do things you're supposed to do. But when you gain that trust and that love within yourself, you're going to do the things that you want to do naturally, because you know why? God took his hand off your neck to allow you to show that you are listening to his teachings. He didn't need to micromanage you. He didn't need to control you. He showed you once, trusted that you would learn. You did. So now when it comes to something that you don't want to do, you don't have to feel bad about it. You don't have to feel obligated. You don't have to feel like you're going to be punished. You don't have to feel like that, because it's literally being put on upon you to just relax. Because I trust in you to do everything that I know you're supposed to do, when you don't want to do something, I will accept that you don't want to do it. Another point I wanted to make is that you are not responsible for everyone's healing. You're not a fucking project manager. You're not a project manager. As an eldest daughter, you are not a you're not a project manager. Stop it. I had to catch myself today. I told 2 or 3 of my friends today, I said, I'm sorry for being the teacher all the time. I'm sorry for giving you wisdom and advice. Not saying that they don't use it, not saying that, but if I constantly step into that role of teaching, we could never truly have a friendship, because it's always going to be looked at as mentor to mentee. And not to say that I don't want to mentor myself, but because I consult with God a lot, I don't really go outside of myself to really like get advice in a way. I allow God to speak through people to tell me certain things, and that I can feel it's his words and his sayings. But I don't really have that whole mentor-mentee situation. I just ask God, my ancestors, and they point me to it. But I realize that I do that to people. Like, they say something, I'm like, oh, you know, there's a better way, Let them people fuck up, or let them people live their life. They letting you live yours. And even if they did want to put an input on it, to be honest with you, unless I know that your words came from God, your input on my life don't mean shit to me. I already don't even move loudly. I move and you just happen to see it across the wind fire. You know what I'm saying? You just happen to see it. And that's something that I want the collective of eldest daughters to understand, that you don't need to seek the validation of your hard work. It will come naturally. When you're constantly seeking validation of your hard work, it will always push away from you, because you're performing. You're not doing, you're performing. And it's a bad act. It's actually horrible. Okay. And the next thing is that it kind of goes with the healing. You are not Superman or Superwoman. Okay. You have to redefine you as an authoritative figure, and not through the projections of other people. I've said a lot of things in this podcast that I feel like you're either going to get it now or you'll get it later. And I feel like regardless of where you are in life now, you'll see it soon. 2026 is a powerful time for eldest daughters. It's the year that we actually get to be strong and soft at the same time. Our strength is not our defense mechanism anymore. Our strength is actually our gift. It's no longer the defense mechanism that we put up so people can't disappoint us, so people can't hurt us, so people can't critique us, so people can't, project onto us and be jealous of us. It's that our strength is now a gift. You can now be covered by someone that sees your strength as a gift and not as intimidation and not as something to mishandle and not as an ego boost. An eldest daughter's strength is a gift to the right people. It doesn't matter. So many eldest daughters will be covered. I speak this and I prophesy this over your life. So many eldest daughters in the next coming years, specifically next year it will start, will finally be covered by someone that can protect the healer. Someone that could protect the generational curse breaker. Someone that can protect who came first. All these things that I've talked about, they go into every aspect of your life. Work, relationships, friendships. Every aspect that I've talked about when it comes to our emotions, it comes to our strength. It's going to come. It's going to come and, it's your time. It is time for the first to finally be covered without the intention of malicious behavior. It's time for the eldest daughter to be loved properly and provided for properly and to be supported properly and to be honored properly and to be held properly and to be pleasured properly. The eldest daughter finally gets it. And if you're already in something with someone, they transition. The money comes without you having to work hard. The fame comes without you having to work hard. The recognition comes without you having to work hard. It gets easier. And you're probably like, why would it get easier just because I'm an eldest daughter? Because you went through the most fight. Subconsciously. You're the one with the most generational curses in you. Your other siblings have their own, energetic and spiritual lessons because, who they are. But the actual bridging between strong generational curses are put in the eldest daughters. When it comes to bloodlines, like mothers that have multiple kids, the eldest daughter is the one that carries the strongest generational curses. Every time. The eldest daughter carries the strongest generational curses. They're so deep and they're so hard. Oh my God, they're so hard. They hurt so bad. They hurt so bad. And the pain that you go through is hard because you can't even figure out why. You don't even know why. I never had this happen in my life, but I'm going through something that I don't even know why I'm going through it. And that's the strength that God gives you to say it's a gift. Because if you can solve a puzzle and you don't even know what it's supposed to come out to be, then you have to know that your reward is bigger and better than you ever could imagine. And this is never to regret you being the eldest daughter. It's for you to honor it. Ooh. Y'all thought I got makeup on me. Okay. Child, we gonna have to link up at the next game. This game got too intense. It's too intense. But I'll see y'all next week. I'll see y'all next week. Remember, no reneging, no talking across the table, no ego, only for evolution. I'll see y'all next week. Later.